Welcome back to my channel. It was supposed to be an ordinary shopping trip. The morning sun cast a warm glow over Los Angeles's bustling Beverly Center, a mall that acted as a crossroad for shoppers from all walks of life. Among them, a woman dressed in understated elegance weaved through the crowd. Before we dive in, let us know where you are watching from and give your honest opinion and stay till the end. Let's continue the topic. It was Melania Trump, former First Lady, trying to blend into the ordinary bustle of everyday life. There was no entourage trailing behind her, no flashing cameras, just the sound of footsteps on marble floors and the faint hum of whispered conversations. Subscribe this channel. She walked through the boutique's aisles, her fingers grazing over fabrics, tailored blouses, silk scarves. To those who did not recognize her, Melania seemed just like any other shopper, lost in the quiet luxury of the moment. It was a rare instance of anonymity for a woman who had once lived a life of constant public scrutiny. For a fleeting moment, she smiled to herself, standing near a display of handbags. One sleek black clutch caught her eye, and she imagined the perfect occasion to carry it. But the peace of her morning was shattered in an instant. From across the boutique, a voice rang out. Sharp, loud, unmistakable. "Oh, you've got some nerve showing your face here," the woman shouted. Heads turned, conversations faltered, and a sudden tension gripped the air. The voice belonged to a woman in her early 30s, casually dressed, but radiating an undeniable aura of anger. There was no hesitation in her words. She made it clear that Melania's presence was unwelcome. The crowd fell silent, their attention pulled toward the exchange as the woman locked eyes with the former First Lady. Melania froze momentarily, her hand still resting on the black clutch, the weight of the moment sinking in. The room seemed to shrink, the atmosphere thickening with unspoken judgment. Melania's practiced composure was on full display. She turned slowly to face the woman, her expression unreadable. Yet, despite her calm demeanor, a ripple of tension spread through the onlookers. Subscribe this channel. The woman, her voice now filled with indignation, took a step forward. "You think you can just walk around like you're one of us after everything? Unbelievable." The crowd shifted, some looking uncomfortable, others intrigued by the confrontation. Phones appeared, some discreetly, others not so much, ready to capture this unexpected moment. The woman's anger, raw and palpable, seemed to have no intention of subsiding. "You stand there acting like nothing's happened, like the world hasn't changed. People like you are the reason we're in this mess," she continued, each word dripping with frustration. Her voice cracked, her hands shaking as she gestured wildly. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Melania remained silent, her body language calm, yet the silence she held only seemed to fuel the woman's fire. "You've hurt so many people. Do you even care? Or are you just another symbol of privilege pretending to understand the rest of us?" The words, filled with frustration and a sense of injustice, hung in the air. As the woman drew closer, Melania's expression remained unchanged, her hands resting by her sides, her gaze unwavering. Yet, despite the calm in her posture, the words cut deeper than anyone could have anticipated. The woman, now standing close enough to invade Melania's personal space, stepped forward, her voice trembling with emotion. "People like me, we're the ones who suffer, while people like you just exist. You have no idea what it's like to be on the other side." The intensity of the situation seemed to mount with every word. The tension was so thick it was almost suffocating. The boutique employees, standing at a distance, didn't know whether to intervene or let the drama play out. The small crowd grew, an unspoken curiosity edging out any sense of discomfort. As the woman's voice grew louder, one voice unexpectedly broke through the tension. "That's enough." It wasn't from Melania. It wasn't from the angry woman. The words came from an elderly man, a quiet figure standing near the back of the boutique. Dressed simply in a button-down shirt and khakis, he had the kind of presence that made people stop and listen. The room went still as he stepped forward, his voice calm yet authoritative. "That's enough," he repeated, his tone unyielding but peaceful. His words seemed to cut through the chaos, commanding attention with the simplicity of their message. The crowd parted slightly to let him through, their gaze now drawn to this unexpected figure. The woman, still visibly shaken and angry, turned to face him. "And who are you supposed to be?" she snapped, her voice still tight with emotion. The elderly man didn't flinch. Instead, he looked at her directly, his eyes steady. "I'm someone who's tired of seeing people tear each other apart. We all have our frustrations, but this isn't the way to fix anything." For a moment, even the woman seemed to falter. The room, once buzzing with divided opinions, fell into an expectant silence. All eyes were on the elderly man, as if waiting for him to say more. His simple statement hung in the air, speaking volumes in its honesty. He turned his gaze to Melania, softening his tone. "And you, Mrs. Trump," he said, addressing her now, "this is a moment for understanding, not pride. If you're willing, maybe you can show the rest of us what grace looks like." Melania's expression softened slightly, and though her composure remained, there was an unmistakable shift in her demeanor. She nodded slowly, the calmness in her voice barely concealing a subtle vulnerability. "I am listening," she said quietly, her gaze meeting both the elderly man's and the woman's. The tension, thick just moments before, seemed to dissipate, as if the possibility of a conversation, of real understanding, was now on the table. The woman, still visibly upset, crossed her arms in defiance. "Listening? That's easy to say," she scoffed. "But do you even care about what's happening to people like me?" "Subscribe this channel." The elderly man stepped closer to the woman. His tone, though firm, was laced with empathy. "She's here, isn't she?" he said, his voice gentle but strong. "Right now, she's standing in front of you, not walking away. That counts for something." For a moment, the woman seemed at a loss for words. She looked at Melania, and for the first time, her anger seemed to falter. She hesitated, glancing at the elderly man as if seeking reassurance, before turning back to the former First Lady. "Subscribe this channel." Melania stood, waiting patiently for the woman to find her words. The woman's defiance began to dissolve. She looked at Melania, her expression faltering, and then quietly admitted, "I'm tired." Her voice cracked. "I'm tired of seeing people like her. People with everything, walking around like nothing's wrong, while we're struggling to get by. It's not fair." The elderly man nodded in understanding. "It isn't," he said, "but blaming one person for all the world's problems doesn't make it better. Conversations like this right here, this dialogue, can make a difference if we let them." For the first time, Melania stepped forward, her voice firm yet compassionate. "You're right," she began. "Life isn't fair, and it's true that I have privileges many people don't. But I don't walk around pretending that nothing is wrong." She paused, her gaze steady and unwavering. "I see the struggles. I see the pain, even if it's not always my own." The woman blinked, her posture shifting ever so slightly. Her stance softened as she absorbed Melania's words. Melania continued, her voice calm yet full of sincerity. "I can't fix everything, but that doesn't mean I don't care. If I didn't, I wouldn't be standing here, listening to you, trying to understand. A shift had taken place in the room. The anger, which had been palpable just moments ago, was slowly giving way to something else. Understanding, even if tentative. The woman stood quietly, her arms uncrossing. Her gaze flickered between Melania and the elderly man. The tension, once suffocating, had transformed into something far more powerful. Empathy. "Maybe," the woman said softly, her voice carrying a sense of tentative hope. "Maybe we can talk more. Really talk." Melania nodded, offering a quiet smile. Maybe today can be a start. The crowd, which had once been eager for drama, now felt like an audience to something far more meaningful. The shared understanding in the air was undeniable. What had begun as a confrontation had turned into a moment of rare connection. As the woman left, calmer than when she arrived, she exchanged a few final words with Melania. "Thank you for speaking your truth," she said, her voice soft but genuine. "I didn't expect you to listen. I thought you'd just walk away." Melania smiled faintly, a sense of mutual respect passing between them. Walking away never solves anything. Before we dive in, let us know where you are watching from and give your honest opinion and stay till the end. Let's continue the topic. The elderly man, having played a crucial role in defusing the tension, gave Melania a small nod of approval. She returned the gesture, a quiet acknowledgement of the moment they had all shared. With a final look at the handbag she had been eyeing earlier, Melania stood alone in the boutique, the tension of the moment fading into a quiet peace. For the onlookers, it wasn't just a confrontation. It was a rare lesson in the power of empathy and the importance of listening, truly listening, to one another. As the crowd dispersed, leaving the boutique behind, they carried with them something far greater than a shopping trip. The understanding that connection is more powerful than conflict. Sathuri, that, sometimes, it takes just one moment, one conversation, to bridge the divide. If you want more topic, then subscribe this channel.